This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 570 KBI. Each week, I share expert advice and inside knowledge on today's events and local economy can affect your money. And in studio right now, first-time guest, another one, Scott Estes with Veristone Capital. Great opportunities sometimes take creative thinking. Buying at auction is one of those times. Short-term financing allows you to not have to tie up your own cash, but leverage someone else's. And a little bit about Scott, 14 years in the industry. He's actually a personal friend of mine as well, so I'm really excited to have him in studio. Specializing in purchase money for all types of financing. He's been certified through the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. And Scott and his team have built a reputation over the years for saving the day when it comes to all loans and lending. And I can back that up because I saw some of the magic that he did when we actually worked together. Scott is the VP of Sales of Director and Marketing at Veristone Capital in Kirkland. They are a full-service real estate lending partner that lends private money to investors on single-family and commercial properties in the greater Puget Sound area. Scott, thank you so much for coming into studio and excited to talk to you about short-term financing.
Thanks for having me.
Let's go ahead and start right out with explaining to my listeners what private money is.
Private money is a commonly used term in banking and financing. It refers to lending money to a company or an individual by private individual or an organization. And while banks are a traditional source of financing for real estate and other purposes, private money is offered by individuals or organizations that may have non-traditional qualifying guidelines.
So, Scott, who should know about private financing? Anybody that's listening right now,
Everybody
who are those
listening.
people?
Everybody. A lot of people have, they're just confused by what private money is. Either they think it's, their friend that's going to lend them money, or they think it's Guido that's going to break their kneecaps. Or
that probably becomes because they hear hard money.
Hard money.
Yes.
Exactly. And it's scary. It's intimidating. And Gil did a great point of pointing out how if you went up to an auction, it's crazy. I mean, It looks crazy, and it can be really intimidating, and it takes a village. It really takes a lot of people to organize that chaos and make it a seamless transaction. But lending is a huge part of that. And if you went to any normal lender, they're never going to lend on an auction property. And that's just one way of using private money. We've got people that buy money at auctions. We've got people that need a bridge to in your world. If it was contingent on the sale of another house, they had all this equity, and you can't help them until that sales goes through.
Exactly.
I can offer a bridge and make that seamless in a matter of 48 hours, if that.
So what should they know about hard money when you're talking about single family or commercial lending, because they can get it on both sides?
Correct. It's not always the right fit. First off, I would love for a normal person to go through a traditional. If it's going to be a fix and hold, then you want to talk to you and get them into a mortgage and make sure that they're pre-approved, ready to go, so that whole process is easy. If an investor is looking to buy a property, not just at an auction, obviously we take care of that, but if they want to buy a property at off the MLS or just they found a great deal, we're able to lend them the money on the acquisition price of the property, make them an all cash buyer, and again we can close within on a normal 7-day close. Typically we can also do a 24-hour if needed as well. So if somebody wants to buy a property off the MLS or off, just pick up a property, they're able to use us. We'll lend them the money for the acquisition price. We'll lend them the money on the rehab as well. And they can come to us with as little as 15% into the entire project.
Wow.
Right? So we're able to leverage their money to where in a traditional world, if they came to you or a normal lender, they're going to require 25% down as the minimum. They can go less, but Fannie Mae hits them with huge adjustments. It just doesn't make it worth it. So we're able to leverage our money so that they can leverage their ROI, because speed is huge in this world. If they're going to pick up a property, being a cash buyer in today's environment is huge. When a seller looks at a 30-day close, a 60-day close possibility, whereas I walk in and can offer cash, same price, close in 7 days, we usually get that property.
So if you're listening right now, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to use the short-term financing. But I think if you're having a challenge, because in this market, the arena, there are so many multiple offers going on because of lack of inventory. So just like Scott said, if you had an opportunity to set yourself aside from the other buyers, if you can go in there with a 7-day close, paying cash for the home versus somebody that's got to get a mortgage. Also, the bridge financing is a really, really great creative thing that I think really helps in this market, because if you have to sell your home and you're trying to go contingent to buy another one, it's not going to happen if you're buying in any area where there's multiple offers, which in our area here, right by studio, I guarantee there's multiple offers on every home. So what's a good time, Scott, to call in for private money other than what we've already talked about?
I love being their first response instead of their last reaction, right?
Yep.
I want to be at the front of it. I love investors that are opportunistic, that like staying in front of an opportunity. Mm-hmm. We have investors where we have a relationship with them where their credit might be dinged up or they might not have the right finances, but we're able to look at the project, the collateral, and the exit strategy. Okay. And those are what weigh the most on my decision, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. Because in normal lending, there's a lot of times where somebody just has bad credit, but it's a great opportunity.
Sure.
They just can't get it.
Yep.
So with us, we're able to help them. Again, you're not going to marry this long term, but oftentimes we're able to use our money and show you that even though you're paying 4 points, 12% interest, mm-hmm, the fact that you don't have any red tape, mm-hmm, it's extremely fast.
Yep.
They're able to net a higher ROI on the entire project, mm-hmm, and also free them up to do multiple projects at once instead of allocating all of that cash for one project.
Exactly. And that's why I said people have cash sometimes, so but them to liquidate that money, why not use someone else's? So what is the typical time, Scott, that they're holding this loan for? So let's say somebody, because another opportunity in this market is you want to buy a house, but it's not in condition that you can actually get a loan on it. So you've got to do work to it. You've got to either pay cash for this house to buy it, which everybody else is in that same challenge, which means they're not getting offers. So right there, it's a better opportunity that it's not getting offers because nobody can get financing for it and they're not thinking about this short term. So when you get financing, you've got to rehab that property, get it in a position to where you can turn it around to a loan if you're going to actually keep it. So what are these short-term loans? What's the typical time?
Anywhere from at an auction, if you're going to buy a property and then put it into long-term financing, mm-hmm, it can be as short as 30 to 60 days.
Okay, what's the longest
year
period? Okay, so depending on how the whole scenario looks, if somebody wanted to go in and take advantage and buy this house that they couldn't get lending on, rehab the home, they could get possibly up to a short-term loan that would take them out for 12 months.
Absolutely. I've got one that just called this morning, and they're looking at buying a $136,000 property. They need about $25,000 cash. Mm-hmm. We're, their future value when sold is $220,000.
Okay.
So with everything, fees and whatnot, their whole skin in the game is $32,900. Their rate of return is $24,000, a little over $24,000. Okay. So their ROI is actually 63%.
Okay.
Right. So they're leveraging our money. We're into it for 78% of the project. They're into it for only 22% of the project. Yeah. And yet they're netting 63.8 return, and we're getting 8.5.
So if you're listening right now and you're really discouraged with what's happening in the market, you're not getting your offer accepted, there's too much competition out there, and you see a house that needs a little love, but it actually needs a lot of love, so the bank's not going to lend on it, get creative. Do something that not everybody else is doing so that you can actually get into the market and have a great, hopefully, return on your investment more than you can on the traditional way that everybody else is doing it. Let's talk about where you're lending at, Scott. What areas?
We are the greater Puget Sound area, King, Pierce, and Snohomish.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you break down for my listeners how it works when you're using private money?
It's really easy. We've got a website. You go in and you just give us a basic of what you want to do.
Okay.
So whether it's a bridge, a flip and fix, or you just need our money for a project.
Okay.
You just tell us what you need. We'll be able to break down a pro forma for you so that we can initially look at what you're trying to do, get a feel for the story, get a feel for the exit strategy, and then send you something back that details that.
Okay.
And then once you do, if you like what we have to offer, then you'll just follow through the pre-approval process, which is very, very simple.
Yeah.
It's nothing like going through a traditional loan.
Okay.
It's actually scary.
Yep.
If you're in lending, it's the polar opposite of what you're used to.
Nice.
So yeah, it's very nice.
Maybe I should switch and do what you do, Scott.
I don't know why I didn't do it sooner. I like the punishment.
Yeah. So let's talk about your company. Why should a listener use your company for short-term financing?
It's a great question. There's a lot of people out there that lend money. We have helped thousands of clients over the years that once thought private money lending was too expensive or only offered by cutthroat sharks that want your money or property. But we have a full-blown staff of over 10 people that are ready to assist you, whether it's at an auction, whether it's a bridge, or whether it's a fix and flip. It's a full-service office. Veristone Capital services 100% of our loans, so you never feel sold off. We are your real estate lending partner from start to finish.
So Scott, with private money, there's got to be some tips that you can share with my listeners, because just like anything else, anytime that you're doing something that's out of the box, and this is definitely out of the box, it's creative. There's a little more risk. And so understanding what those risks are, what are some tips that you can share with my listeners?
I keep hearing there's more risk, but there's really not.
Okay.
Because again, we're in a first mortgage deed position.
Okay.
We're secured by a deed of trust on a piece of property here in our area that is typically at a 60 to 70% loan to value.
Okay.
Right? It's not that risky. What we're looking at is the story.
Okay.
We need to know who you are. I've got builders that have gotten crushed the last 5 years, and their credit's beat up. They have some cash again, and they want to play. So we're able to take a builder that literally would never be able to go to a traditional bank, and we're able to get their foot back in the door and in the arena and basically be able to lend on the project. We've seen the work they do. They find a house. They're going to tell us what the scope of work is. They don't need to tell us what color tile it is or any of that. We just need to see what they've done, what this is going to look like, and what the budget is, and again, get a feel for them and their story.
Great. And I'm glad you corrected on that, Scott, because yes, you're correct. And I know on the lending side with the short term, that's the benefit of going through the approval process is different than approving for the buyer. What you're really doing is not the individual, but you're approving the property. You're approving that investment that they're purchasing, which is actually a huge benefit for that buyer that's doing that, because now they're not on their own trying to figure it out, because rest assured, your company's going to figure out, because that's the collateral. That's what you're loaning on.
Exactly.
Okay.
And there's two sides to private money. There's our investor side, where an investor can come to us with $250,000 minimum up to, I've got clients that have millions of dollars with us. That money was sitting doing nothing. It was just an idle. They're able to take that and invest with us. We're able to give them a 10 to 12% annualized return. They can take distributions, or they can roll that money and continue to let it compound.
Okay.
They're spread out. Now that money is in the community, spread out a bit, amongst a whole bunch of projects.
Sure.
So it's very secure.
Yeah. Okay, Scott, your perfect client, who is that?
An opportunistic investor, somebody who sees opportunities, that wants to get ahead of them. We love working with investors that just have their stuff together. They know what they want. They know what they're doing. That's not the hard part. It's where do I get this money from? Because there's times where they've got friends, let's just say Bob lends them some money, but then another project falls right in their lap and they don't have any more. And now where do I go? Bob's tapped out, or Bob's on vacation. Yeah. It just doesn't work. So we want to partner with you. We really do want to look at what you're doing. And if you're a seasoned investor or even brand new, it does take a village. Yeah. So we're willing to walk through any scenario at any time.
Really quickly, if somebody wants to partner with you, get more information, how do they contact you, Scott?
They'd call me at 425-891-8260. Again, that's 425-891-8260. Or you can email me directly at scott@veristonecapital.com. Again, that's Scott and then @veristonecapital.com.
And if you didn't get that, you surely have my number, 1-888-987-0570. That's the show number. Pick up the phone, give me a call, and I promise I'll directly connect you with Scott. Scott, thank you so much for coming into the studio, my close friend, and now you've been in my little arena here. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Deep sigh of relief.
And this is your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, signing off for the day. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you again, once again, for being a loyal listener, hanging out with me on the weekend, and I promise I'm going to be back here same time, same place, right here on 570 KVI next Sunday at 11 a.m.